Collecting knowledge is the key to amassing enough ammunition to contribute to the conversation of intellectual progress. It seems that more people are investing in the self-help industry than ever before. And if you want some statistical validation to back up those claims, I've got it for you. According to the market research group, NPD Group, they report the self-help industry has exploded by an average of 11% between 2013 and 2019, respectively, with the numbers coming in at 18.6 million in U.S. sales of self-help books. Those numbers are good news for the visionary force and founder of Book Thinkers, Nick Hutchison. Book Thinkers is a growing 7-figure marketing agency which works to bridge the gap between authors and book readers. In the short time span of just 7 years, Hutchison has worked to grow his platform to reach over 1 million people per month. And his podcast, Book Thinkers, Life-Changing Books, has grown to be in the global top 2% of shows, and it features captivating and thought-provoking interviews with people such as Grant Cardone, Lewis Howes, and Alex Hormozzi. Through his platform, Hutchison has helped hundreds of authors expand their reach to reach millions of new readers, all while helping them grow significant revenues as a part of their book campaigns. He's passionately dedicated to helping people take action through the information they absorb through reading. This was one of the driving forces behind his book, Rise of the Reader, which gave him a platform to dive into the strategies to master your reading habits. And lucky for all of us, Hutchison found some time in his schedule to engage in conversation about the importance of absorbing what we learn in self-help books and how we can all rise as readers. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to talk to you about literacy, books, and everything in between, my friend. Great to see you this morning, and thank you so very much for being here.
Kevin, there is no place I'd rather be. I love speaking with people like you who host amazing conversations and are motivational, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. I want to thank you for that compliment, but I want to know all about sort of your motto in life, that you believe that reading and implementing the information from personal development books and business is what it's all about, my friend, because you believe that information is underutilized. So I'm wondering if you can explain that to me and why you think that's so fabulous, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Kevin, when I was growing up, I was not much of a reader. I was more of the athlete stereotype growing up, not really much of the academic. So I played football, I was captain of the wrestling team, and that sort of anti-education behavior that I had, like you couldn't pay me to do my homework, it continued with me into college, but everything changed for me when I took an internship going into my senior year of college at a local software company because my boss introduced me to the world of podcasting. So I started to listen to shows just like this, where a wonderful host like you would interview a number of guests and they would talk about what they did to become successful. And I started to realize that so many of the successful people I looked up to, they were giving at least some credit for their success to the books that they were reading. So I started reading personal development style books about 10 years ago, and I've been able to use them to solve almost every single problem in my life and develop every single skill that I want to develop. So I genuinely believe that the right book at the right time can change our lives. And if we deliberately choose not to read them, then we're deliberately choosing to live under our potential, because we all have the capability to read or to listen to a book, but most of us choose not to. And I think that that's sad because we're all capable of doing more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about doing more, my friend. You created a marketing agency called Book Thinkers that bridges the gap between the reader and the author, my friend. So tell me about your journey creating Book Thinkers, my friend, because I think it's a phenomenal and fascinating platform. So tell me all about it.
Yeah, well, it started sort of by accident. I just wanted a place to share the books that I was reading because not many of my friends or my family at the time, they weren't really interested in personal development type books, business books, skill books like sales, marketing, communication, that kind of stuff. So I just started posting about those books on social media. And very quickly, I connected with a lot of people online who had the same interests. And we were sharing book recommendations and engaging with each other and having some debate sometimes in a good, healthy way. And as that audience started to grow, authors started to reach out to me and they'd say, "Hey, Nick, I love your book reviews. Can I pay you to review my book?" And I thought, well, that's interesting. Like, I have this full-time job. This is just sort of a little bit of a side hustle, a passion of mine. And now I can get paid to read. Like, that's my dream. So I started to follow the clues. I would ask these authors, like, "Hey, what else can I help with? How can I help promote and market your book? Why is it so difficult? Why aren't you using social media?" And here we are a number of years later. I have an agency. So I've got 10 people on my team, and we help about 200 authors a year promote and market their books. We do short form video content for their social media. We do podcast booking where we place authors on great shows like this to talk about their books. And then we also do book reviews. We've got a large community of about 150,000 on Instagram and another 50,000 on the other platforms. And we share books every day.
Well, that's fascinating, my friend. And I know that you're a big proponent of promoting literacy, my friend, and really, encouraging people to read and implementing the strategies or the lessons they get from the books that they read it. I know it was a big emphasis behind you wanting to write your own book called The Rise of the Reader. So tell me about why it was important for you to write the book and your overall stance on the importance of literacy as well. I'm fascinated, my friend.
Yeah, when I first started, I never anticipated, being a thought leader in the space of literacy as it relates to personal development and nonfiction books. But over the years, I've received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the same questions through social media and through podcasting. Like, "Hey, Nick, how do I choose the right book? How do I take effective notes? How do I implement what I'm learning?" Right? Because if you read a good book and you choose not to take action on it, nothing changes in your life. So action, that's the secret sauce. That's where all of the magic happens. And so I would answer everybody. But over the years, I decided to start writing a book because I wanted to answer these questions for people. I wanted to send them a resource every time they asked me the question and say, "Hey, just go check this out. It's available for a few dollars. You can read it, you can implement it, and you can change your life. You can get more from every single book you read for the rest of time." And so that's what I've decided to do. This new book, Rise of the Reader, Strategies for Mastering Your Reading Habits and Applying What You Learn, teaches the reader everything I know about how to get the most out of these books. And I do care so much about literacy. There's actually a quote on my bookmarks. I'll have to send you one, Kevin. It says, "The man who does not read good books is no better than the man who can't." That's by Mark Twain. So what he's saying is we all have this amazing gift to read books, right? These books condense decades of somebody else's lived experience and greatest life lessons into days of reading, and then we choose not to read it. I've heard it said that if you face a problem on a daily basis, something in your business, your personal life, your health that you just can't get rid of, if you don't take care of it over the next 30 years, you'll deal with it 11,000 times. So why not find somebody who overcame that same problem, spend the $20 and a few hours of your time reading about how they overcame it, and then avoid the next 10,950 painful experiences. So yeah, that's why I believe these books can change lives. They can help us live up to our potential. And it's not that expensive and it's not that time consuming.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Nick, I'm a huge believer that we're all responsible for creating what I call our competitive advantage in life. And I'm curious, how do you think absorbing information from these self-improvement books can help us gain our own competitive advantage in life?
So sometimes I joke around. People say, "Hey, Nick, how old are you?" And I say, "I'm 29. But if you include all the books I've read over the last 10 years, which condense decades of lived experience into days, I'm thousands of years old." That's the competitive advantage that you get. You get all of this wisdom packed into your brain from thousands of years of other people's lived experiences. And then you can filter your decision making through the lens of the world's best in every category, the most innovative people, the healthiest people, the happiest people. And so, I think reading and implementing books is just like any other skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. There's a study that I read one time. It's based on a concept called the Matthew effect. And they start by saying, if you and Warren Buffett both read the same financial magazine, who's going to get more from it? Warren will, because he has this vast foundation of knowledge to apply what he's reading to as a reference point. So of course he's going to understand it better and implement it better. And I think that as we choose to read so many different books, so many different life experiences, we diversify our perspective and we start to understand more of how the world works. I'll tell you what, when I first started reading these books, it was a very humbling experience because I was a young, sort of know-it-all 20-year-old kid. And every time I picked up another book, I realized there was an entire universe of knowledge and understanding that I was previously unaware of. And that was intimidating. It was humbling. And so the more you read, the more you realize you don't know that much about the world. But that's okay because you start to fill in the gaps. And that's why I think it's important to diversify your perspective, to live in other people's shoes, to understand what they went through and how they overcame it. And that creates a very unique differentiator.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I know you're a component of appreciating solitude as well, my friend. And why do you think appreciating solitude can also be beneficial when we fast from human interaction sometime? And I know that reading's a big part of that. So I'm wondering if you can expand on that for me this morning.
You must have seen one of the most recent pieces of social media content we put out there, because I quoted Blaise Pascal, who said, "All of man's problems stem from his inability to spend a few minutes alone in a room," or something like that, quietly. And here's the thing. We live in such a fast-paced society where you can get online, you can get on social media, you can watch 10 or 15 videos per minute. They all release dopamine. But that doesn't help you get introspective. It doesn't help you solve problems. I think solitude is a deliberate opportunity to spend time with your own thoughts, to reflect, to solve problems. And I think we need to create space for that. In my book, Rise of the Reader, I talk about something called the rule of 25%. I think when you're first starting in the world of personal development, you should spend 25% of your time with mentors, People who have done what you want to do and who have helped other people get there. That could be personally, professionally, from a health perspective, it doesn't matter. So oftentimes we can't get in-person FaceTime with those people, so we have to read their books. Books are great mentors. I think we should spend 25% of our time with peers, people who are fighting the good fight. They're in the same place in life, and we can hold each other accountable, build an accountability group, and keep each other focused on the path of most resistance to overcome adversity and live great lives. I think we should spend 25% of our time teaching other people, right? Mentoring others. We all have something of value to offer, just like you're doing with this podcast, Kevin. But the final bucket, the final 25% is 25% of your time with yourself in solitude. That means writing, reflecting, meditating, thinking, creating space to solve problems. And most people don't want to do that. Again, as Blaise Pascal said, all of man's problems stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room for 10 minutes or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I think that does help us a lot. When you create space, you solve problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, I'm curious to ask you about the idea of building what I call social capital and really building a community of support and how reading can help people do that. What do you think the key is to building social capital as we read books? Because it's a great way to connect with people, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, Kevin, I have a lot of tattoos, and every time I bump into somebody else that has a lot of tattoos, we instantly have the ability to create rapport. Hey, tell me about this, tell me about that. It's like an instant connection. And so I think the same thing with these books. I mean, I've read hundreds and hundreds of them. So if I had you, Kevin, tell me your 5 favorite nonfiction or personal development books, we would be able to talk for hours about them because I would have a point of familiarity. And that makes connecting with other humans much easier, I think, and more effective. The other thing, too, is a lot of these books, they're read by millions and millions of people. So if you read the bestsellers, books like Atomic Habits, for instance, or Think and Grow Rich, the chances are you're going to bump into somebody else that's read those books, too. And, you know, it just, again, it creates a diverse perspective. It gives you the ability to think and to act and to be a better person, too. So, yeah, I think they're really important.
Yeah, and then tell me, where does your individual passion for reading come and what do you think is the key to helping authors grow their audiences?
Well, like I mentioned in the sort of introduction, Kevin, I wasn't much of a reader growing up, but I did want to live an amazing life. And so I realized that reading and implementing books was part of that experience. So I didn't have a pre-existing passion for it, but here's the thing. My passion was developed from consistency. So I showed up every single day and I read 15 pages and I built a habit. And eventually, as these books started to remove pain and solve problems, help me develop skill sets, I became passionate. So sometimes we're told, oh, you have to have a pre-existing passion to be consistent. No, I think it's the other way around. If you have a big enough why, you'll figure out how to make it happen. I wanted to be better. I figured out how to force myself to read, but now I'm addicted to it. Now I love it. I have an insatiable curiosity to learn as much as humanly possible about how we can live up to our potential. And so again, passion can come from consistency. And I think that's a really important thing to talk about. And
Yeah.
now, oh, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, finish.
I was just going to say, and now I apply that same consistency and passion to social media. Now I'm passionate that, you know, of the idea that the right book at the right time can change someone's life. And so if I can introduce you, Kevin, to a book that can change your life, that makes me feel better because I know I've left a positive impact on you. And so on social media, I try to put out a good book every single day and connect with people and answer their questions. And yeah, that's you know, kind of how I serve people.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I've got 2 questions for you in the time we have remaining, my friend. I'm fascinated to ask you, you know, with the digital transformation that the world is sort of going through. What do you think is the key to getting people to put down their digital devices and open a book?
I think it's awareness and understanding. I think it's education. So here's the thing. Multitasking, meaning focusing on more than one thing at once. I've read too many productivity books to think that's a good idea. So we get distracted by our phones. We can't focus on one project or one work experience for more than 20 minutes without checking our device because it's constantly pinging. So I think you need to train the opposite skill set. I think monotasking, focusing on one thing at a time for a long period of time, that's deep work, as Cal Newport defines it. That's entering into a flow state. That's getting to be great at something. And so reading a good paper book, like a physical paper book, focusing on that and nothing else for, let's just say, an hour at a time, that's a skill set that you can develop. And then you can transfer that skill set, the ability to perform deep work and to focus on one thing at a time, to other things in life, like podcasting or whatever somebody might do professionally. And so sometimes I joke around like, hey, if my agency fell apart and I had to go get another job somewhere, I would put the ability to focus for extended periods of time on my resume, because that's what reading has enabled me to do. It gets away from this instant gratification, dopamine nation type thinking, and it gets back to the basics. Like, hey, I can do good work without being distracted. And I learned how to do it from reading good books.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, my final question for you this morning has to do with legacy, my friend, and how you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined.
I just want to be thought of somebody who positively impacted everybody that he came in contact with. And some of that is a correction from my behavior when I was in my teens and early 20s. Like I was super competitive. I definitely developed a little bit of an ego that would represent itself at the expense of other people. And now I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I try to be of service to as many people as possible. And today, Book Thinkers, our business, I mean, on social media, we do about 1 million impressions a month. And I want every single impression that I have to be one that's positive and that positively impacts other people. So, yeah, I think, I think about death a lot, Kevin, because it's guaranteed for all of us. We're all going to die at some point. So I don't want to be thought of as somebody who is selfish or focused on himself. I want to be thought of somebody who, as somebody who was focused on positively impacting as many people as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with Book Thinkers or you personally, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Well, Kevin, if anybody in your community is like, you know what? This was a different perspective. I think I should start reading now, but they don't know where to start. They can always direct message me on Instagram at Book Thinkers and tell me a problem they're facing or a skill they want to develop, and I will give them a personal book recommendation. So that's my favorite place to connect, Book Thinkers on Instagram. And if anybody wants to get a copy of the book, it's Rise of the Reader, and the easiest place to get it is on Amazon.
Fabulous, Nick. I really want to thank you for your commitment to promoting literacy, my friend, and for your love of reading, my friend. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation. It's most appreciated.
Absolutely, and thank you, Kevin, for hosting such a great show and for being willing to talk to me today.